Oh my goodness. Thank you guys for waiting. Of course, there had to be technical difficulties. This event has had so many barriers, but we are here today to celebrate. Bienvenidos, welcome to La Luna en la Luz, a very special virtual tasting. My name is Veronica, and I am the proud Director of Development here at La Luz Center. Today, there's so many of you guys joining us. There was an outpour of love and support when we announced this event. Thank you for that. I want to start by thanking our sponsors. First and foremost, La Luna Mezcal, which you will shortly be tasting. I hope all of you guys have your kits ready to go. The Latino Community Foundation, thank you for always having our back. We're also standing in an Exo Media studio, socially distanced, I should mention, and of course, the Press Democrat. We have partners, donors. We also have our staff, our team. Thank you so much for being here. And if you are new to La Luz, welcome. You're officially part of La Luz family. Before we get started, as we all know, there are several fires that are burning in California. And I want to take a second for us to think about our firefighters and those families that have been evacuated and hold them in our heart. My thoughts and prayers go out to our community that once again is being threatened by wildfires. I also want to give a special shout out to our farm workers who day in and day out put food on our table. Whether it's COVID, whether it's the fires, they are there and we can count on them. My family immigrated from Mexico in 1986. And I am proud to say that my dad started his journey working in the field. His story is my story, and it's reflected in the work of La Luz. So with further ado, we are here to celebrate the rich and vibrant history of La Luz. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Juan Hernandez, Executive Director of La Luz Center.
Thank you, Veronica. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Wishing La Luz a happy 35 years of existence. La Luz has come a long way. And for 35 years, La Luz has been a lifeline to the Latino community in Sonoma Valley. And so we're just very proud of being in a situation where we're celebrating 35 years. And so just thank you so much for joining us today. I would like to introduce somebody who's very special to our organization, our board president, Kimberly Blattner, that has a few welcome words for everybody here today. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kimberly Blattner. I'm the president of La Luz's board, and I couldn't be prouder of our organization. We are in the Valley. We are the trusted go-to place for the Latinx community, and we have been for the last 35 years. So I want to welcome you, and I want to applaud all of you in the audience who volunteer to our local nonprofits. When you think back on 35 years at La Luz, we've had at least over 200 board members, and their volunteer service has contributed to making us an organization that is both structurally and fiscally really sound. So if you haven't had a chance yet to come to La Luz and volunteer, we welcome you. We welcome you anytime, and we already appreciate you for being with us here tonight. So I say on to tasting that mezcal, and let's have some fun.
La Luz started with the work of Ligia Booker back in the late 80s, early 80s. As we know, in Sonoma County, the boom of the wine industry started in the late 70s, early 80s. And so Ligia came into the community, and she very quickly built a relationship with the Latino community and became the bridge between the Latino community and the non-speaking English community to the Spanish community. And so after a while, he had a little cadre of volunteers that were part of her effort. And in 1985, La Luz was formed. They opened up a small storefront on Highway 12. It was a chiropractor office. The chiropractor operated in the morning, and La Luz volunteers operated in the afternoon. We've come a long way since that chiropractor office. We have a beautiful location in the middle of the Springs area. And so La Luz has been in the community for 35 years, and they progressed over those 35 years. I think the biggest difference has been La Luz was an organization that we used to be giving people fish, because that's what the community needed at that time. There was a lot of migrant families, people that needed that basic support, food, and shelter. But as the Latino community has evolved in Sonoma Valley, La Luz has had to evolve. We're now an organization that teaches people how to fish, and where we can, we influence the fishing industry. And so the biggest jump has been adjusting our services and our efforts and our outreach efforts as the Latino community evolves in the community. And this effort has taken 35 years. In the future, we believe La Luz will be here for an additional 35 years. And that's because La Luz has deep roots in the community and wide branches outside of Sonoma Valley as well. And so the future of La Luz looks bright. We have a very strong board. We have very talented staff. And the future of La Luz is going to be one where La Luz is going to try to solve some of the toughest issues that we have in the community. I just want to thank you for being here. I also want to next introduce our founder, Ligia Booker.
Family and the sponsors. I am honored to be regarded as the founder of La Luz, as it was actually a little seed that fell on fertile grounds and grew to be the wonderful bouquet of flowers that it is today. Its birth certificate should read, quote, "The child of a need, a hope, a dream, and a call to action, and the godparents, two diverse communities ready to meet and make great things happen." When we first opened our doors, there were needs we never knew existed and help that we never dreamed about. We became home away from home for a community separated by the barriers of culture and language, and a welcoming opportunity for the Anglo community who poured itself out with all kinds of support. At the risk of forgetting something or somebody, but at 83, I'm sure I'll be forgiven. The pulpit of the Catholic Church helped to announce needs and solutions. The Sonoma Index Tribune created a bilingual column which was at the disposal of La Luz. Two local businessmen loaned us bilingual employees a few hours a week to man the office. St. Andrew Presbyterian Church sponsored an annual Christmas concert. We held our first big and very successful fundraiser, Noche Mexicana, with Bob Rice, the precursor to Marcelo's famous Noches. The list of support is endless, so I will stop to tell you some of what we did. To alleviate some of the needs of our farm workers, we created a program, La Casa de la Amistad, the House of Friendship, with an all-volunteer force that twice a week in the evenings provided a hot meal, attention of minor medical problems, ESL classes, and distribution of clothing and sleeping bags. Formed a farm workers task force to study housing and the possibility of a hiring hall. We established a house cleaning cooperative that secured employment for 16 women, sponsored a choir of children and a dance group that entertained at local events and participated in parades, bringing visibility and an opportunity to share our culture. We pioneered the Mexican independence celebration. Our community was so grateful and felt so empowered that they considered themselves stakeholders, owners of La Luz. And last but not least, with the help of the faith-based community organizing project and the cooperation of the Redwood Empire Methodist Mission, we were able to acquire the wonderful location where La Luz stands today for $1 from the redevelopment agency with the support of our then supervisor, Mike Kale. So ended my physical presence at La Luz. I'm grateful to God for so many blessings and for his continued care over the directors, staff, our generous supporters, our volunteers, and our community.
Next, what we want to do is we want to introduce two people who were volunteers at the same time that Ligia started the organization. And you're going to meet these two people, these two volunteers that were there at the initial founding of La Luz.
Y ahora es mi gran placer presentarles a dos compañeros y fundadores de La Luz, María Luisa Padilla y José Fernández.
Me siento sembradora de este lugar que empezó La Luz. Habían muchas necesidades que teníamos que solucionar. Me siento muy contenta de ser una persona que puede hacer la diferencia en mi comunidad. En el 95, con la ayuda de la iglesia y La Luz, 15 personas se hicieron ciudadanas, por lo cual estoy aquí para recordar estos momentos que pasamos. Para mí es La Luz que me dio más oportunidades de conocer y cómo hacer las cosas y cómo ayudar a otros. Hoy me siento feliz gozando de estas bendiciones, especialmente de poder votar y tener una voz en la vida de mi segundo país.
Muy orgulloso de pertenecer de aquí de La Luz, que hace muchos años fuimos los fundadores y nos dedicamos muchas veces a ayudar a las personas a venir desde abajo, a motivarlos para que siguieran el mismo programa de nosotros. Me gustaría que siguieran los mismos consejos que nos daban a nosotros para seguir adelante y que esto nunca se termine. Cuando nosotros andamos en esta campaña de la Luz, nos veníamos del trabajo, dejamos nuestras familias por venir acá a las pláticas, a las reuniones, a hacer eventos. Sí valió la pena y todo siguió adelante y veo que entre más días más van progresando. Me siento orgulloso de que hay muchas personas que están siguiendo mi ejemplo. Yo les diría que se pongan a trabajar, no anden de vagos por las calles, vayan a las escuelas, se hagan ciudadanos, como yo lo hice en este Centro La Luz.
Wow. Jose and Maria are still part of our organization. They're still part of our family. And it's always a really treat when they come visit us and they share those stories of those early days of La Luz. And now we're 35 years because of those original founders of the organization. Next, I want to introduce a friend, a board member, somebody who's doing some really exciting things, and somebody who's willing to share some of those exciting things with the La Luna Mezcal. I want to introduce Sal Chavez.
Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Yeah, great. Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you guys for joining us tonight for a great cause. I think this opportunity of collaboration is amazing. The synergy, even with the name La Luna and La Luz, seemed to work out really well. Obviously, there's so much depth and history with La Luz and everything they've done for this community, a community that I'm a part of, that I've been a part of since a little kid. My story with this brand actually kind of properly describes a lot of what you've heard already. My family immigrated here in '84 from Michoacan. My father and his family are from Michoacan, which is why this project started. I'll get deeper into that in a second. And then at some point in my life, I decided to kind of return the favor, and I migrated down south to start this mezcal project that today is La Luna Mezcal as a brand that has been growing across the country in different markets, which we feel very blessed to be able to accomplish. And I think, tonight is really a payback to La Luz and everything they do, obviously for a great cause, hoping to raise some money for La Luz and all of their initiatives to keep on growing. You know, the organization has been flourishing over the last few years. And this is just another way, creative way that they've decided to raise money and keep the organization thriving. So I'm going to dive into what mezcal is, what La Luna Mezcal is. You guys obviously have some samples in front of you to taste. It's hard for me to see everybody, but raise your hand if you guys already feel very familiar with mezcal, or if you want me to dive into it a little bit deeper. We can go straight into tasting, or I can also share with you a little bit of the intricacies of what mezcal is, why it's so beautiful, why it's so historic to Mexico as a republic, why it's growing so quickly as a category, all of those things. So please share, please share. Okay, you got it. We're gonna dive into it. I think all I needed was 2 people to say yes. So here we go. Well, let me back up real quick. So yes, my name's Salvador Chavez. I'm from Sonoma since 2nd grade. My family moved here from Pen Grove, California, which is not too far away from here. When my parents immigrated here, my father was first a dairy farmer. My mother was cleaning houses. And at some point, there was an opportunity for my father to come work on a property here in Sonoma. And we made the move when I was in 2nd grade. And we've been here ever since. So the ability I've had to be able to find support, financial support, by that I mean investors and different community members to help me grow as an entrepreneur, really, once again, aligns itself with what La Luz does for people in terms of emboldening and empowering them. So that's a little bit of history as far as me and my family. So in 2014, 2015, roughly speaking, I went back to Michoacan. Michoacan is a beautiful state that's not really known for its mezcal necessarily. I think everyone who's here recognizes mezcal for Oaxaca, by Oaxaca, right? Oaxaca is a southern state of Mexico. It is the mecca of mezcal to the whole republic, meaning it la cuna de mezcal for the whole country. It is the state that produces the most mezcal in the whole republic. That being said, there are other regions of the republic that represent this beautiful product as well, usually north of Oaxaca, so bordering us. So Jalisco is known for tequila. Obviously, a lot of people know it for tequila, but tequila is a distillate, another agave distillate that also is produced in Nayarit. It's also produced in Guanajuato. It's also produced in Michoacan. So it's a product that a lot of people don't know is represented in different states. Most of us know it for Jalisco. This is a similar issue that happens with Oaxaca. Oaxaca is known to represent all of mezcal, but Michoacan is also a state that produces beautiful mezcal, and La Luna Mezcal is doing the same thing. So we are trying to represent the whole state of its diversity of agave. We'll dive into what that is in a second. Specifically, it's a succulent that we make this beautiful product from. And there are a vast amount of agaves, magueys, that you could use to produce mezcal, whereas with tequila, you can only use Blue Weber agave to produce it. That's strictly the only agave you can use. So that's one differentiator, one thing that maybe I think everyone here has probably tried tequila at some point in their life. I'd love to know, if we can, how many people this is the first time trying mezcal, because that'd be very interesting for me to hear. I'm going to share my screen real quick, and we're going to dive into a little presentation of La Luna Mezcal and its history and what we do and how we do it. And then we'll also, while I'm going, I'm going to ask you guys to start jumping into some of the expressions, and we'll taste them. But I think it'll be easier for you guys to understand what you're drinking based on seeing how it's produced. So give me one sec. Here we go. Okay, so this is La Luna Mezcal. This is our welcome to you guys in Michoacan. This picture, actually, that's me holding onto a truck driving through an orchard of avocado trees. This is actually on my family's property in Cotija, Michoacan. Not necessarily my father's, but extended family of the Chavez Figueroa family. What this picture represents to me, it's the greenery, it's the beauty of Michoacan and everything it has to offer. Michoacan is one of the most agriculturally rich states in the whole republic. We produce a majority of most of the agriculture that we consume in the United States, from avocado to citrus to berries, you name it. It grows in Michoacan. It's got one of the most, some of the best soils for growing vegetables, fruits, etc. Got great water sources as well. Something we touch on here, more greenery, more green that we're driving through. I reference here the sierras of Michoacan. The sierras, why? Because most of mezcal is produced typically in the hills, in las sierras of Michoacan. This picture is in Etucuaro. This one is not in Cotija. I'll get to the difference in a second. They're just two different towns, but both of them represent some of our production. But it kind of shows you guys, obviously, the scenery of trees, pine, oak trees around the agave. So everything you see here, if you guys can follow my mouse, is that agave is growing wild in this region. Another beautiful scene. This scene here is from Cotija, Michoacan. So this is literally on the land my father was born, in Cotija. One of the things that we're going to highlight is our still. Oh, give me one second. I'll go We'll go full screen. See if I can do that. 1 second. Here we go. I think that'll be helpful. Perfect. Okay. So this is our still. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar even with how products are made, right? Like in terms of distillates, right? Vodka, gin, whiskeys, you name it, right? They all go through a distillation process to ultimately be the liquid that we consume. This is, crazy enough, the still that we use to produce every single drop of La Luna Mezcal that comes to market. This is a still that represents the history of how products have been made in Michoacan since the start of it, right? Mezcal is rich to our history from many different ways of distillation. This is the one true to Michoacan, this pine wood still you see here. So agave, what is agave? Agave is a succulent. A lot of people refer to it as a cactus. It's a mistake. This is actually a succulent. There are a lot of different types of succulents or agaves that you can use to produce mezcal. We represent almost all the biodiversity of agave that the whole state has. That's kind of the beauty of mezcal. Mezcal, for all of us here, you know, we're all familiar with wine. We live in wine country, most of us. Our organization, La Luz, is from wine country. Wine country, for example, you know white wine, but within white wine, you have Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Grigio, Chardonnays, all those varieties or varietals, right? Mezcal is the same way, where you're going to have mezcal as a broad category, but as you guys have in front of you today, you have a lot of different agaves represented in each little sample bottle that you have. That's kind of the beauty of it, right? So as you go to different states, there will be different agaves that might be represented. Oaxaca does benefit from the richest biodiversity of agave in the whole republic. We don't have as many unique varieties in our state, but we're working to find more from border to border of Michoacan, and every single one we find, we typically start working with and create an expression for the market. This happens to be Cuprieta. Cuprieta is our #1 expression. You guys have that in front of you today. So I actually would love to ask you guys to crack that one open and start putting it in a vessel to start sniffing and sipping while we go through this. So for us as a company, Cuprieta, our black label, you'd find that locally at Sonoma Market right now. Obviously, we're growing in the state of California. And so if you guys are from a different part of the state or even in a different state, we work with a distributor in California called Southern Glazer's Wine and Spirits. This means that literally if you guys just wanted a bottle from your local retailer, wherever you guys live, it wouldn't be hard for them to order it from Southern and get there the next day. So if you guys want a special order of anything you tried today, typically speaking, ask your buyer at a local store and they can order it from Southern and it should get there the next day. Mostly everybody works with Southern in the state, so it makes it very easy. So this is Cuprieta. This is our #1 expression. This is what we produce every day. One of our internal intentions, something that motivates us deeply as a company to keep growing, is how many employees we have in Michoacan and how much our employment base has grown since we started this project, and now we've grown to 14 states across the U.S. This is the agave we work with every day. While other ones that you guys will taste is that we work in sporadically. You know, sometimes we make a batch once a month or once every 3 months. This particular agave we use every single day to produce Cuprieta for the market. It's our highest demanded product, and it is the one that's used most typically in cocktails from our brand. If you guys ever go to a restaurant that features La Luna Mezcal on a menu, this would be the agave that we're using to produce that product. So I don't know if I can still see the messages, but what I would love is, as while we're going, especially because some people might be newer to mezcal, start throwing me out some notes, something you guys might be tasting, questions you guys might have. I'm happy to try to address them while I'm talking. Oh, there's smoke. So that's interesting. Smoke's first, but I don't even get smoke anymore. I drink it so much. It doesn't seem to be something that stands out as a flavor. But yes, it is a product that tastes smokier. We'll get to why. I think there's a lot of misconceptions as to why mezcal is smoky versus another product, but it really boils down to the artisanal aspect of it, how we actually roast it underground. So I'm actually going to go to that first, then we'll go through some other details. So the agave that you see here, when it's harvested, there's a process called himando, right? So it's actually using what's called like a koa. It's like a round flat knife with a long stick on the end of it. And we use that to shave off all the leaves of agave. It ends up looking like this once it's cut off. All those beautiful leaves that you saw that made up this big plant ultimately get shaven off. And you can see kind of the outline of each leaf, right? They kind of look like eyes around this agave. This is what agave looks like after it's completely shaven off. And this is what we're going to put underground here to be roasted to ultimately what ends up happening with agave is made up of a lot of long strains of carbohydrates. This process of cooking actually is called hydrolysis, that ultimately breaks down all those chains of carbohydrates into simple sugars that are fermentable sugars. We do not benefit from having a product, a raw material that has instant sugar that we can convert into alcohol, like grapes, for example. Grapes, you crush them, you get the juice, all those sugars are ready to be fermented into alcohol, not mezcal. So we have to cook it first underground. This is how we do it. So we load them up under all of this volcanic rock that you see here. We have a live wood fire going. Typically that's all white oak that we light up, white oak that we source locally. As you can see, you guys can see some of the smoke here, right? Like you guys see some of the smoke seeping out here through the picture. You can kind of get the idea. Well, it's all of that smoke that's actually going to penetrate the agave to cook it. Other more sophisticated or industrial ways of producing mezcal, like in the world of tequila, would be in autoclaves, which is kind of like a microwave. You have traditional brick ovens, which is kind of like your chimney. All of these ways are much more sophisticated than what you're seeing here. This is the original way of cooking agave is this same way. This is the same way we produce our product today. So after we load it up with all the agaves, we give it a little bit of touch of water to remove any excess steam. Now, what I would challenge you with is if you think this product's smoky, do me a favor, go buy other mezcales or go try them somewhere, because I almost can promise you that ours might be on the lighter end of the spectrum when it comes to smoke, when it's produced this way. This might have a lot to do with the wood that we use, the time that we cook, which for this particular expression is 90 hours, which is a long time. 90 hours is a long time, right? Some products for tequila take 3 hours to cook out all of its sugars, right? This takes 90 hours for us. It's a lengthy process. That's just for the cooking, because then the next step is going to be fermenting. So ultimately, we close up our oven with actual dirt, just like this. And these mats that you see, those are actually made out of palm leaves. They're called petates. And these petates are to protect the agave from the actual dirt, like actual contact from dirt. But a lot of times, you know, these ovens are called conic earthen ovens or earth ovens. So a lot of times mezcal has a lot of earth flavors to it, and this is why. This is it's literally a process of agave that's cooked in the earth, in our earth, right? So it ultimately gets sealed up. What we don't want is anything steeping, no steam escaping, nothing seeping out. We want it fully closed out. No fugas is what we're looking for, so no leaks of smoke of the actual energy that's going to cook this out. After they're cooked, this is what they look like. At this point, if you grab any piece of this agave and ate it, put it in your mouth and chewed on it, it would be very sweet, almost like sweet potato-ish kind of textures. Delicious, really good to taste. But at this point, all these sugars are ready to be fermented finally. So we typically macerate our productions by hand. A lot of times for our bigger productions of cuprieta, I'll show you guys. This is basically, we use axes, axe to, and it's funny because we don't actually use the sharp part. We use the fatter side so that we can crush the agave, not necessarily cut it. So I'll show you guys a quick video. So this is how you would macerate the agave. So it'd almost be like the old school way of macerating grapes by foot, right? And then we enter them into these wood tinas. These are all wood tinas. And we enter in there all the shred that we take, because we don't have a perfect way of extracting all of the juices from the agave. We take the shreds, which have all the sugars still attached to the fibers, put them in these tinas. We add water, and then the fermentation process starts. The fermentations, the only thing that influences fermentation for it to happen is natural yeast from the air. We don't add any yeast. Like sometimes in different distillates, they might add, at this point, sophisticated and engineered whiskey yeast or rum yeast or even baking yeast, something to activate or inoculate. We do not do that. It is simply the yeast of the air that starts the process of fermentation for us. So this is what a batch of right here would look like that's fermenting. All of this here. Ultimately, here another shot of it. So simple recipe for us. Oh shoot, that's not. It's a contract. Hold on one second. Oops. Give me one sec. No, that's not what we're looking for. I apologize. I lost it here. There we go. Okay. Here we go. You guys, yeah, everyone can see again? Okay, wonderful. So so this is the shredding, the shreds, water, and the natural yeast, wild yeast is what makes our must, our mosto. To then all at the fermentation for someone that might not know, the process of fermentation is simply converting all of its sugars into alcohol. That's what we're trying to do, and the yeast do that for us, right? That's what the yeast their task while they're in there is to do that, right? Not because we pay them to do it. This is a natural process. So it ultimately becomes a lower level alcohol. You could call it beer at this point, right? Wine. And then we actually take all of that and then we distill it. And so as mentioned to you guys, our distillation process is no different today than it was in the 1700s, 1800s, 1900s. It is entering all of this mosto. This is must that now has a little bit of alcohol to it, maybe at the most 8%, probably at the lower level 5% alcohol. And then we're going to distill it. And when you distill it, it's going to raise the alcohol level. It's also going to create this liquid that has a murky color to it with all of this shred into a clear liquid, right? Something like kind of like what you're drinking right now, right? Like a clear liquid. So I'm not trying to get too technical. I apologize, but hopefully you guys are still with me here. So then we distill this with this same wood still here. This wood still that you see here. This is how we're distilling. I'm catching someone's conversation. So after this first distillation, then the liquid's clear. At this point, the liquid is going to be I don't know, between 18-22%. The Filipino still, yeah. So Natalie is asking Filipino, what is that? So at some point the Filipino immigrants came into Mexico. A lot of this is sometimes referred to as Filipino slaves that the Spaniards brought. Some of them could have been on their own doing. Their distillation practices is what they brought and we inherited. That's why these stills are called Filipino stills. So there's different variations of them across the republic, but all of them kind of have the same concept where there's a receptor. In this case, it's a copper bowl. And then there's a condenser, which is going to be our wood still. Sometimes it's an empty wood trunk, as crazy as that sounds. That's what it is. Sometimes it's a clay pot that also could have been used to boil beans, for example. That's what my grandma would do. Those are the condensers where the liquid's actually going to be condensing into a spirit. That's why it's called the Filipino still. Filipino influence still, Filipino still. And we're firing this caso up and getting it hot with this live wood fire. So once again, everything really done by hand, everything done like in an artisanal way. That is La Luna Mezcal all the way through. That is what we try to accomplish as a brand. This right here is a copper cone, copper cono. So this is where we actually hit it with cold water on the top, which creates condensations on the inside, which creates alcohol. That's what alcohol really is. It's separation of alcohol and water. And so that's what we're producing, except in a very artisanal fashion. So that's La Luna Mezcal in terms of how we produce it. This is a front side view of that area. Hold on one second. What's going on here? That's the front side view. So basically right here, live wood fire. That copper caso you saw, I don't know if you can see my mouse. It's basically right here, that bowl. And then this still goes on top. That gets really hot inside. We hit it with cold water on top, on the cone, on the outside, creates condensation inside. We catch it with the spoon, as we call it, cuchara, and then it comes out of this hose that you see right here. So as simple as that sounds, as complicated as that sounds, that is how you produce traditional mezcal in Michoacan, and that is how La Luna Mezcal produces it. And this is what our lineup looks like today with some new added family members recently, new colored labels, new expressions, meaning different flavor profiles, etc. And so now I ask you guys to jump into the next expression, which is an ensamble. It's going to have, it's going to say La Luna Mezcal Ensamble, E-N-S-A-M-B-L-E, ensemble. So let's try that one next. All right, let's see here. And this is a wonderful lesson. All right, great. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. Who also started? Oh, I did not know this, Natalie. Thank you for letting me know that. Great branding. Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. So ensambles, what are ensambles? Ensamble in the world of mezcal is a blend of 2 agaves or more, so basically more than one. Just like, like in the red blends of wine, typically they say that they're winemaker blends, right? Because they get a chance to take all their finished product and make it into a beautiful product that they love. We do it different. For an ensamble, you have to do everything beforehand. So you can't decide after it's distilled how you want to blend it. You have to do it beforehand. So you have to put the agaves together in the oven. You have to ferment them together. Then you have to distill them together. This ensamble is of 2 specific agaves. It's of this agave, the cupreta that I mentioned, and it's also of this guy. No, sorry, not that one. This one, tequilana. These 2 agaves are this blend that you're trying right now. So this is obviously with all the leaves on. It looks different with the piña, but both of these agaves were cooked together. Percentage 70% cupreta, 30% this agave tequilana, and now you taste this. So, let me know what was a different notes you might taste here than you didn't taste on the cupreta. Less smoky, more citrus, less citrus, etc. Be kind of fun to understand. There we go. I can taste tequila in it. Okay, it's less smoky. Great. Not as smoky, quite tasty, beautiful, great. So, like I mentioned to you guys, I apologize, but I actually don't taste any smoke anymore. I just, I've muted myself of that flavor profile. Pure, yeah, wonderful. All of these things. One thing to point out: all of our products are 45% and above in alcohol. Now, I know that seems pretty, intense for everybody because typically we're used to 40% alcohol for our gins, for our vodkas, for our tequilas, even. Traditional alcohol levels for mezcal production are typically 45% and above. Typically, this isn't true universally, but typically. And that is why we try to represent all of our expressions in a traditional way, 45% above, meaning the way that people would have drank them in the 1700s, 1800s by preference would have been this alcohol level that you're trying right now. So kudos to you guys for being able to handle. Yeah, sabe tierra. Yep, definitely. That's what I love about it. Sabe tierra, Gabriela said it tastes like dirt a little bit. And it's a very positive way of saying it. I actually agree, and I love that note. It's a very earthy note. It kind of talks about its interconnectedness with earth. Tastes like gasoline. Well, that's not that favorable, but I'm sure that, yeah, to some degree, very well could. Has a little tingle on the tongue. Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that. More complexity in this one. That's great. I'm glad, Wendy. That's awesome. So if you guys have a different vessel, let's jump into the tequila. No, you guys have Manto Saguayo, right? Manto Saguayo green label. Manto Saguayo. Is there a little green label that you guys might have laying around there? Yeah. Okay, beautiful. Let's do Manto Saguayo. I'll show you guys. That's this guy right here. For us as a bottle, it looks like this. For you guys as a small vial, it has a small green label as well. I'm going to join you guys. I'm getting thirsty. So cheers once again to you guys for joining us tonight and doing this. I'm sure you guys have a lot of other things you could do. So thank you guys for this. Manto Saguayo. This is Manto Saguayo. This is what it looks like. This is the agave. It's from a very special region in Michoacan. It's that's actually this name Saguayo, the name Saguayo, that's actually a city or town in Michoacan. Manso means tame. A lot of time they talk about manso for this one because it's really easy to handle versus a different agave that you guys are going to try, which is called bruto, and that one's the opposite of manso. So this is Manto Saguayo. This region also knows it as chato. It doesn't have a scientific name, so a lot of times agave has scientific names. For example, the cuprieta for the black label, the first one we tried, that's a scientific name. The local name is called chino. And in this case, this local name is Manso, also Chato, but there's no scientific name. So it's kind of curious. Agave is very complex. A lot of times it's trying to represent the name of the local, what the locals would call it, versus the scientific name. And so it's a balance act of all these things. What is it? I just spilled mine. You got to sip it with a straw. That's David, you got to just pick up a straw and sip it off wherever you spilled it. It's an old college trick. Here we go, David Sinwa. Cheers. Yes. So, this, in my opinion, Manto Saguayo is one of my favorite agaves that we work with. It's very robust in flavor, very layered, different notes. I believe the one that you guys have is 48.5%. That's kind of the curious thing. A lot of times, a really well-made spirit, independent of what alcohol profile, what alcohol level it is, it really the flavor profile that will dictate if you can consume it with your mouth without it being like, too hot or whatever. So I'm hoping you guys are enjoying it. Favorite so far? Light? Yeah. Fruity? Definitely. Okay, great. I think you guys will really enjoy the Bruto if that's the case. So, and that's the beautiful thing about this line, right? You guys can pick your favorite and continue to consume that one and not use the other ones. So that's kind of cool about mezcal as well. So once again, kind of similar to wine, a lot of different expressions within our brand that you can choose might be your favorite. Botanical, lovely scent. That's awesome. Loving the feedback on these guys. More citrus, yeah, definitely. Yeah, creamier, yeah, creamier. So a lot of times mezcal is characterized as kind of having more viscosity, more thickness, a little bit more creamy. I think that's a very favorable note, in my opinion. A little bit more body, I guess, would it be. If we had it in a wine glass, maybe it'd have a little bit more legs to it. So that's what this one looks like right here. That's the Montesanoyo. There's won an award at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition. Our double gold was this one that we're not tasting tonight. Just a teaser, just to show you this picture. You guys can go find that one. But this is the Montesanoyo you're trying right now. I bought Sonoma Market simply because my dad from Michoacan. There we go, David. My dad too. My parents, well, my dad and the Chavez Figueroa family from Cotija, Michoacan. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Cotija cheese, but that is what Cotija is famous for, more so than mezcal. It was a cheese that we make there. My grandpa's side, the Chavez side of my family, had been producing and making it for a long time. It's an unpasteurized cheese, which is why you don't really get the real version of it here in the United States. It's delicious. I have some in my fridge right now. You guys want to sample? Let's talk. It's very it's funky cheese, very like crumbly, amazing for food cuisine. But it's also the reason I started this. It's one of the best pairings with mezcal. So right now, if you guys had a piece of real cotija cheese and mezcal, you sip, bite, sip, bite, sip, bite. It's like the perfect way of doing it. Kind of what I remember my family doing it from like a nostalgic standpoint when I would go to Cotija as a young kid. My father, my aunts, uncles, my grandparents, they'd have Cotija cheese in one hand, a little mezcal in another, and they'd sip, bite, and kind of what drew me to doing this. So can we do Cotija tasting next? Yeah, we can work on it. It's you guys are gonna have to sign a waiver because I'd have to bring it back, and then I want to make sure you guys don't blame it on me if you guys get a little tummy ache. I doubt it. It's a great cheese. Actually, the aging of the cheese is what makes it really special, and what actually, what would you call it? Save it from being dangerous to anybody. But I don't know. We haven't gotten across the border. Maybe it's something I got to do. Well, cheese that we actually did at a Picasso Kitchen and Bar locally. We did a full cheese and mezcal pairing with our line. And so I could share, like, for example, the Tequilana, which is a blue label, which is this guy. We did queso fresco with this guy. I'm pretty sure I did Gruyere with that one. So to your question, Lupe, that's what we did. The Chino, what did we do? I think a sharp cheddar with the Chino. So it's fun. Cheese, it was really fun. It was a really fun evening. People really enjoyed it. How do we get to taste the double gold? Wendy, I'd have to, there's a link I'll put on here for a retailer from San Diego that'll ship anywhere in the state. Yeah, maybe another tasting, Sharon. That could happen. We have more cool expressions coming out. So let's pour Bruto. Bruto is the last one you guys have, right? Am I correct in thinking you guys have Bruto in your hands? Gray label Bruto, is that correct? Yeah. All right, beautiful. Let's do Bruto. Bruto is also one of my favorites. It's this guy right here, Bruto. It's a gray label. It's looks a little different in this picture, but this is what it is. Bruto. We actually were mentioned in Business Insider, a national publication. One of the mezcal experts from New York said that this is the best mezcal they've ever tried, period. I really enjoy it. This is an agave that's really local to Cotija. It's a wild agave, typically speaking. So it's special in that sense. It's an agave that actually is huge in size. Sometimes the piñas can weigh as much as 300 pounds. So it's massive. We have to cut them down to be able to get them to our trucks or to our vinata to be able to process or to cook to then produce into mezcal. But it's worth it. It's an agave that in my opinion creates a lot of really rich agave notes, agave dominant in the smell and even the taste. And then you guys tell me what you taste, because I could tell you all day what I taste, but I'd love to hear from you guys. What do you guys think? Spicy, yeah, and a good, kind of like a peppery kind of sharpness to it. Yeah, a little heavy. There you go, bell pepper. I like that. Licorice note, cool. Pepper, there we go. More pepper. Yeah, I get pepper for sure. Pepper is definitely, the agave is huge. It's massive. It dwarfs me. It makes me look like I'm 3 foot tall. It's a huge, typically speaking, not all of them, but a lot of them are grown to be really, really big in size. They take sometimes 20 years to be mature. So 2 decades to be mature. So that's why, mezcal, tequila, even, even though their agave usually takes the least amount of time to mature, mezcal is really special for that reason alone. It's a raw material that takes at least a decade to be mature. Sometimes 2 decades and a half. It takes a long time, so that's why you really want to respect the plant that you're working with, respect that raw material, and process it with a lot of love, a lot of passion, a lot of focus. And mezcal, I think, a lot of times people might not know or understand why agave products are so expensive. But if you really think about rum or whiskey, it's a raw material, sugar cane for rum and grains for whiskey. They're available sometimes twice a year, but definitely annually, pretty cheap to buy. Agave is like the opposite. It takes a really long time to mature. Additionally, it's usually pretty expensive per weight to buy. It doesn't take it takes up a lot of your land space, so there's a lot of opportunity costs in that sense for farmers out there. They could be growing something that produces some annual revenue, but in this case they have a product or a raw material that takes forever. A lot of times it's wild, so it takes us a lot of money to go find it and harvest it to get it to us. So that's why you definitely want to respect it. Definitely why you would find it to be pretty expensive out there. Sometimes like this Bruto, the one you're tasting right now, costs $130 a bottle. So there you go. You got a deal in terms of your tasting price alone just with that one. This one typically is like $100, the one that you tried before this one. The least expensive one is the first one you tried, which costs $40, which is still not necessarily inexpensive. It's our most inexpensive, but it's not, compared to other spirits, not the cheapest product you could buy. So it's expensive for all of these reasons. So now we've tried our last one, and now I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys might have, any thoughts, I yield to Juan and Vero to give me any guidance around anything they want me to touch on. Happy to do it. Sal, I'm sorry I missed it, but where can you find Sonoma? So Sonoma right now, it's Sonoma Market, the only place that really has it. They only have our Cuprieta. And there's other stores, online stores that I could lead you to that could deliver to your house some of our more unique expressions, like some of the ones you tried today. And it's always growing. We're always growing our line, so there's always going to be other cool things to taste. Let me see here. How many types of mezcal do you produce? Right now, we produce, actually, I just get a picture here. Give me 1 second. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right now, 8. 3 of them being ensambles, 5 of them being unique single agaves. And growing. We have more coming and more thoughts. Like I said earlier, our goal is to represent the whole state of its biodiversity and challenge ourselves to make more great mezcal, and that's what we continue to do. Thank you guys so much. I'm glad you guys enjoyed this. Thank you, everybody here. How often do you travel back and forth? Okay, so Pam and Pat, I travel back and forth. I used to pre-COVID, sometimes twice a month. Definitely monthly. And then right now, I've gone 3 times during this COVID shutdown, ever since shelter in place happened. And I have to go back in a couple weeks, but definitely less right now than ever before. But other things have kept me super consumed and busy. So that's that. Let me see here. How often and forth? And is there a La Luz discount? Not yet, but we might be able to accomplish that. I don't know. I'd have to work with the retailer to see if they're willing to do that. I hope so. Vero, there we are. She's back. We can't hear you, Vero.
One second. All right. Thank you so much, Sal. It's such a treat to be able to do this at home in the safety of our living room, our open spaces. Thank you for doing this. And just to kick it off, salud to everybody. Cheers. And
let's celebrate to another 35 years. Thank you, everyone.
Cheers.